Hello, and welcome to another Bloom bonus. There were some notes that I wasn't able to get to in the Groom Scroll recording. It was already going to be quite a long episode. Also, I just forgot to bring some things up. So today's Bloom bonus, Sarah and I continue the discussion of Great Photo, Lovely Life. We clarify some confusion about the herds and give a tentative update about Amanda Mustard. I also mentioned an article that I first heard on the radio that was super interesting and it has stuck with me. It is by Luke Malone and it's called You're 16, You're a Pedophile, You Don't Want to Hurt Anyone, What Do You Do Now? Okay, enjoy.
Bloom bonus. Bloom bonus. Yes, I think it'll be good.
Okay, so before we wrap up this episode of Groom Scroll, we want to go back to Great Photo, Lovely Life, because there was some confusion, definitely on my end here, as usual, about what happened with the herds. Sarah,
Yes.
you had picked up on the fact that they reported Bill. So I think Barb, and I've heard them, Mr. and Mrs. Hurd, the owners of the chiropractic office. They reported Bill after they realized that, the housekeeper walked in and saw Bill laying naked on top of their 12-year-old child. And yes, so you were right about that.
I just remembered the information. That's all.
You did. And then, we also weren't sure about if he had, well, I keep looping you into this. I wasn't sure about whether or not Jack was his name, Jack Hurd, whether or not if he knew, because that was part of the whole thing is Amanda or someone on her team was asking, did you guys have any concerns about Bill before he came and applied here? And Mrs. Hurd was like, no. And Mr. Hurd was like, well, we knew of some trouble. And then he said that a pastor had contacted a pastor from the church, a previous church where Bill was at, and that the pastor had given him a warning. But Jack was like, I'll be careful. I'll just be careful. Mrs. Hurd claims that she didn't know about any of it or that he wouldn't have been there. I don't know. I guess we'll never know whether or not that's true. But yeah, so I just wanted to clarify in case listeners weren't sure. Sarah
Bonnie
understood it.
And Bonnie had taken him. The abuse of Bonnie had been found out and taken him to court after he got turned in at that chiropractic office. Because she talked about him like staring at her. And that was kind of one of the stories that Debbie, his daughter, had kind of like heard musings of when she was growing up, but didn't really know anything about. But it didn't seem like it was until Florida that he actually got prison time. So he had had multiple court cases.
Yes.
Didn't get charged with time until Florida.
Correct. Yeah. So sorry because I thought your question was, is that the case that led him to ultimately lose like his license to practice? But it didn't, because he was able to just go to a different state, because before then, like you mentioned in the episode, there wasn't the sex offender registry. So, it was a lot easier for him to just go apply at a different state, get his license in a different state.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember Bonnie mentioning that he was just kind of, the way that he treated her till the very end, just like kind of super passive and blasé about his role and about how he harmed her.
Yeah.
The other thing I forgot to mention is that I believe Amanda Mustard, she is working on a new project, and you might even see yours truly in it. I don't know how much. Yeah, so I don't know how much like she's actually made public. I found out about this opportunity through someone that I met along this journey, who also knows a lot of advocates. And so she was like, hey, here's this thing. If you're interested, you can submit for it. And so I did. And I've been getting like follow-up emails about the project, and it seems like it's still in the works. But I'm excited to possibly see something else come
Burying
out.
the lead, Diana. Damn, girl. That's exciting.
Well, I would love to unbury the lead. Miss Amanda Mustard, if you're out there and listening, please feel free to get in touch with us if you want us to know about your next project, and I'd be happy to talk about it. The Great Photo Lovely Life was just so well done and really important. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Keep us posted as to the extent that you can.
Okay. And the last thing that I wanted to go back to, with regard to Great Photo Lovely Life, I had meant to bring this up last time, but you know me, I'm forgetful. And also, the episode was getting pretty long. But a few years ago, I was listening to NPR, which, by the way, everyone, please make a donation to your local NPR station because their funding has just been gutted and we need independent, reliable journalism paid for by the public. Okay. So I was listening to this NPR, which National Public Radio is what NPR stands for. I don't know, maybe like at least five, maybe even 5 to 10 years ago. I was listening to this story about a man who they called Adam. And Adam is a self identified pedophile,
Okay.
but he doesn't want to act on it. And it made me, it just like, it's still an article that I think about to this day whenever
Mhm.
I hear the word pedophile or like think about pedophilia, is that there are people out there who have these urges, who have these feelings, and who do not want to act on them because they don't
Yeah.
want to hurt kids. And I think that is so interesting and
Mhm.
fascinating. And so I wanted to plug the article because it is really, really thought provoking and it is behind a paywall. But again, supporting journalism right now is important more than ever. It's on medium.com. So I'll link that, but I'll also link this page that describes the article written by Luke Malone. It was submitted for an online journalism award because it talks a little bit more about like why this was submitted for the award. Like it was such an impactful and important article. So I'll link that, and that has the link to the actual article. But I just wanted to read a little bit of the description on this website about the project. In the media and in the public consciousness, pedophiles are often framed as archetypal monster figures, crudely drawn predators who have been caught after remaining undetected for decades. Few have considered what it means to actually be a pedophile, much less explored what it's like to realize that you have an unwanted attraction to prepubescent children and how one navigates that with no formal support network, which Sarah, you've talked about a lot, is like, where are people getting help? What
Mhm.
options do they have? Reporter Luke Malone's Matter piece called You're 16, You're a Pedophile, You Don't Want to Hurt Anyone, What Do You Do Now? Offers a brave, contrary look at the seemingly incontrovertible subject. He investigates the plight of the non offending pedophile, individuals who are attracted to kids but don't want to act on it. It is told through the story of Adam, a young self identified pedophile who runs a support group for pedophiles in their teens and early 20s who want help battling their demons.
How do you
Um,
self-identify as a pedophile when you're in high school? Like, that's wild.
I think part of it is you're still a kid at that point, and I
Yeah.
feel like you're not corrupted by adulthood and you're able to you've learned a lesson of what's right and wrong and you actually want to do something about it. And if someone is offering help,
Mhm.
maybe that makes it easier. But yeah, I think how do you self-identify as an adult? That's something else that this description for the article goes into is like, and I'm sure the article too, of the fear of, if you admit that to your therapist, does your therapist have to inform your family and your employer?
Mhm.
Like there aren't support systems very well known or in place to support pedophiles. And so
Well,
it's
because
it's just so interesting.
it is an interesting thing, and we kinda talked about that in the full episode about Great Photo Lovely Life, is just because I think Bill in that documentary is a very good example of, like, this is a person with a mental health condition, like, truly,
Mhm.
like, there is a compulsion there that is completely out of control, and, he's a little different, obviously, because he doesn't seem to have any fucking empathy or give a shit about hurting people, but, like, that's also a mental health condition, being a sociopath, like, that's a thing, but I think it does just bring up an interesting question about, yeah, like, what is there treatment? What is treatment? I think some cultures and places in the world, and I think even some states in the United States do like chemical castration. And there's just debates about if there is a way to actually treat it or stop it. And I think some people who don't want to hurt people, that is the direction they want to go, because they're like, there is nothing that I can do. I need to make it so that I can't functionally do this, which, I think those people exist that you're saying, yeah, like have the compulsion and don't want to act on it, but aren't, yeah, how the hell did they get
But,
help?
like, where do they
And who wants
go?
to help them? Like, who wants to be like, "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, I run like a support group for pedophiles." Everyone would be like, "Boo, hiss." And it's like, yeah, I mean,
But, I mean,
but if
that's
they're
why
trying to get
people
better, like,
yeah. I mean, I hope that's why people go into counseling. When you're a counselor, when you're a therapist, you have to have unconditional positive regard for your client.
mhm,
Doesn't matter if they murdered someone, it doesn't matter if they raped someone. Like, your job is to see them and still accept them and still want to
mhm.
help them.
I think, and you said at the beginning of the article, quote, you were saying something about how they're usually viewed as like these monsters in the dark. And I had a advocate, like a prevention specialist that I had a meeting with a while ago, and she said that even about groomers and
Oh,
teachers
yes.
that sexually abuse students, is just that idea that, like, when we depict them culturally as monsters and, these things that go bump in the night, people have a harder time recognizing them in their community because they can't reconcile the idea of what a groomer, child abuser, or a pedophile is with their neighbor who mows their lawn and helped bring in their groceries that time, or, works at their office with them. You know what I mean? Like, they are also human beings that
Mhm.
have all these other facets of their lives. And I think the point this advocate I was talking to was making is like, be careful about depicting these people too much as almost inhuman, because then people lose the ability to see these qualities and the humans in their lives. And it makes
Yeah.
you blind a little bit to the red flags because you think, serial killers are all like creepy, gross, greasy haired dudes that like hang out on the side of the highway with an axe and like, the way that you see it in movies. And then there's Ted Bundy. And it's like, well, that's not what his vibe was. Like,
Mhm.
so sometimes I think it is important to kind of recognize um, a lot of these people are pretty high functioning, quote unquote, normal people outside of this thing that they're doing.
The Online Journalism Awards description says, too, it's an issue of great national and international importance. Around 1% of adult men meet the diagnostic criteria for pedophilia, which means
Wow.
that there are at least 1.2 million pedophiles currently living in the United States. There are
Ooh,
likely more, but reliable statistics aren't available for female pedophiles.
that's
Isn't that
upsetting. That's
yes,
so
that's so
upsetting.
upsetting. And as with regards to treatment, you're right. Like, I don't it's like, what's that called? Conversion therapy. It doesn't work.
Mhm.
You can't change what someone is sexually attracted to. And I
Yeah.
remember that being really sad to me when I listened to the story years ago of like, that's so sad to me that someone can't be sexually satisfied. I don't
Mhm.
want them to be because they're attracted to kids, but to not be able to act on your sexuality, it was just so sad to me, because I think the treatment is like it would be with any other kind of compulsion or addiction is abstain. You just don't do
Yeah.
it. But then you're not sexually satisfied. I don't know.
Mhm. But you could
I know
also
that
say that, like, if you're an alcoholic, drinking makes you feel satisfied, and then you stop drinking and you don't get to be satisfied. It's like, there's
well, for
certain
sure.
things that
Like,
are like, but I guess that doesn't hurt people in the same way. But yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but the alternative is what? You know what I mean? I think that's just the cross those people have to bear,
Yes, I
you
know, but
know?
it just because yes, I'm sure, like with alcohol, you relapse and you feel awful. And I would think too, someone who genuinely doesn't want to hurt a child and does act on it to get that satisfaction would then have so much regret. I would think,
Mhm.
if they didn't want to hurt, if they didn't act on it for so long because they didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted to shed light on this other side of it because I know that and I don't have any regrets for how I was talking about Bill because he was not like Adam who was like, I
No.
don't want to hurt anybody. So
Bill
fuck
was
Bill.
not remorseful at all.
Not at all. But I don't want to do what you were saying of like all pedophiles are pieces of shit. I mean, the ones who don't want to act on it, I think
Mhm.
I don't want to lump them into that group.
Yeah, and I think it's just interesting as a whole to talk about, I think, mental health and where the lines are for us culturally. Real quick, I just had this conversation with a friend a few weeks ago, and she was saying something about kind of implying something of like, oh, well, I don't think it's fair if somebody doesn't want to be in a relationship with somebody because they have anxiety or ADHD or something like that, you know? And I was like, okay, like it's prejudice or something. And I was like, okay, but do you think it's okay to leave somebody who has substance abuse issues? And she was like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, that is also a mental health
Mm-hmm.
condition. It's just that it's culturally a mental health condition that we decide that we culturally think you have a choice,
Yeah.
right? Because that's how people view addiction is it's like, oh, well, that's just you and you're weak-willed and you just can't make good choices. Whereas something like, if you're say you're bipolar, that's viewed very much as something out of your control. And I was like, but both are mental health conditions. Much like morbid obesity can be a mental health condition, like a compulsive eating
Mm-hmm.
disorder. But in our culture, it is viewed as you're being lazy and you don't have self control and
Mm-hmm.
all these things. And I said, I'm not saying you're wrong. I was like, I just think it brings up a really fucking interesting debate
Yeah.
about, is it okay to leave someone because they're an alcoholic? A lot of people would say yes. But if you said, okay, is it okay to dump somebody because they find out they're bipolar? And it's like, ooh, I don't know. Maybe that's kind of shitty. It's like, okay, so if it's okay to leave somebody, it's
Yes.
everything feels
Well,
very black and white until you actually get into it. And it's like,
and yes, this is why the answer to life is it depends
yeah,
because you none need I wouldn't say that one is more shitty than the other. I think it really depends on the individual. Like what are you willing to who are you willing to be with? Like where are your boundaries? Where's that
yeah.
line, right? Like you don't
Hmm.
have to be with someone who has anxiety. You don't have to sign up for that.
No.
Fine. Great. No big deal. You don't have to be with someone who has substance abuse. Like I think it does
Hmm.
depend on the individual. But no, I don't think there's a right answer.
No. But I think and that was my point. I wasn't trying to like say there was a right or wrong answer in that conversation. But my point to her was you have to think a little pause before you just say a blanket statement of it's not right
Yeah.
to break up with somebody for the situation. And it's like, okay, but then here's all these other very similar situations where you think it would be. So it's
Mhm.
like, that's fine if that's where your line is, but you can't be throwing that on other people. Cause I can say, listen, I spent a lot of years of my life dealing with people with substance abuse. I will never do it again. Like in a romantic relationship. That is my line in the sand. I did it, been there, done that, not for me, never going to do it again. But that's me.
Mm.
And if somebody else is willing to go on that journey with somebody and stand by their side and like go through the ups and downs of that, more power to you. Like that's your journey. So yeah, I think you're right. It is just like what you're willing to do and also who you're willing to do it for. Some people are worth
Yes.
that and some people are fucking not worth that time. So also depends who you're doing it for.
It depends. It depends.
Yes, it depends.
Okay, that's the Bloom bonus for today. Thank you for listening. Find us at bloomingafterpod.com or on the socials. I guess just two of the socials, Instagram and TikTok at bloomingafterpod. Talk to you soon.